At times, the world seems wide awake. The streets are alive with movement, voices, lights, plans for tomorrow. Everything appears full of life. And yet, there are moments when a question rises within us. Are we truly awake? Or are we simply moving through habit, through noise, through distraction? As though something within us were asleep while life carried on around us. There is an ancient saying that confronts this question with unsettling clarity. A saying about the human condition, about every one of us. In saying 28 of the Gospel of Thomas, we read, "I stood in the midst of the world, and in the flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk, and I found none of them thirsty. My soul grieved for the children of humanity, for they are blind in their hearts, and do not see that they came into the world empty, and will leave the world empty. For now they are drunk, but when they shake off their wine, they will turn back." Perhaps these words contain one of the quietest diagnoses of the human condition. Not spoken in accusation, not spoken in anger, but in sorrow, and perhaps in hope as well. For this saying does not offer us a theory, it holds up a mirror. In this video on saying 28, we will unfold its words slowly, one by one. The saying opens with a remarkable declaration. I stood in the midst of the world. In the text, these words are attributed to Jesus. But before we try to interpret them, it is worth pausing over this image for a moment. In the midst of the world, not outside it, not distant from humanity, not on some mountain far removed from life. In the midst, in the heart of ordinary life, among the people, amid the noise of the world. This image matters. For many of us imagine truth as something that comes from far away, from sacred places, from hidden chambers, from a world beyond our own. Yet here, it appears in the very midst of humanity. Meister Eckhart, the German mystic, suggested that God is closer to us than we are to ourselves, not distant, not concealed behind walls, but nearer than we dare imagine. And yet something strange happens. Truth stands in the midst of the world, and still it is barely recognized. People pass it by. They hear the words, but they do not truly listen. Perhaps this is not because truth has hidden itself. Perhaps it is because we are so rarely still, so rarely quiet enough to notice it. And this is where the next line of the saying begins. For what it says about humanity is both unexpected and deeply unsettling. At first, the next line sounds almost severe. I found them all drunk, not a few, not even many, all of them. But these words are not about wine. The saying describes another kind of intoxication, a state in which a person can live without ever truly waking. The world is loud. It fills our days with voices, with news, with worries and plans. We work, we organize, we keep ourselves occupied. And sometimes an entire day passes without a single moment of stillness. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard recognized something similar in the 19th century. He observed that many people pass through life without ever asking who they truly are, or where their lives are leading. Not because they are evil, but because they are distracted. We remain busy, and in that very busyness, we lose sight of what matters. The saying speaks of a strange intoxication, an intoxication with noise, possessions, distraction, habit. Life moves on, yet something within us remains untouched. Perhaps you know this moment. A thought suddenly rises in the middle of an ordinary day. A question that refuses to leave. A quiet unease. A sense that something deeper lies hidden within life. And here, the saying leads us towards an even more surprising observation. Because the deepest problem is not the intoxication itself. The deepest problem is something else, something revealed in the next line. After the intoxication comes an even quieter sentence. I found none of them thirsty. This may be the most disturbing line in the entire saying. It does not lament their mistakes, nor their weaknesses. It laments something else. The thirst is gone. We are flooded with impressions, with things, with voices. Yet the thirst for truth has grown faint. It is a strange condition. A person may live an entire lifetime, working, planning, worrying, laughing, and never truly ask, why am I here? What is holding my life together? Where is this road leading me? Augustine, one of the great theologians of the early church, wrote a line that touches this experience. He said, "Our hearts are restless until they find rest in God." Many people barely notice that restlessness anymore. Not because it has disappeared, but because it has been covered over by the noise of our days, by habit, by the speed of life. The thirst still lies deep within us, but sometimes it remains buried for so long that we forget it was ever there. And this is the tragedy at the heart of the saying. We are not lost because we are searching. We become lost when we stop searching. Yet the saying does not end with this diagnosis. In the next line, its tone changes. Suddenly a feeling enters the text that appears there only rarely, a profound compassion. After speaking of intoxication and thirst, the tone of the saying changes. It grows quieter, almost sorrowful. My soul ached for the children of humanity. There is no accusation here, no condemnation. Something else appears. Compassion. The words speak of a pain, not directed at humanity, but arising from compassion for its condition. The pain of seeing that we have lost something without even realizing that it is gone. The Persian mystic Rumi gave this inner pain a voice in words that have moved people for centuries. At the opening of his Masnavi, he lets the reed flute speak. Listen to this reed, how it complains, telling a tale of separations. The reed flute weeps because it has been cut from the reed bed. Ever since, it has longed to return to its source. Perhaps this image touches something very deep within us, a longing that does not always speak loudly, a quiet memory that we come from a depth greater than this world. And perhaps this is the true sorrow within the saying. Not simply that people suffer, but that we sometimes no longer know what we are longing for. The saying now takes us one step further. It names the source of this condition, a blindness that has nothing to do with the eyes. The saying now names the source of this condition, for they are blind in their hearts. It is not their eyes that are blind. People can see the world. They see streets, faces, homes, successes, and struggles. But the saying speaks of another kind of sight, the heart's way of seeing. Here the heart is more than the seat of emotion. In many spiritual traditions, it is understood as the place of inner knowing. The Islamic scholar and mystic Al-Ghazali once described the heart as a mirror capable of reflecting truth. Yet over the course of a life, he said, that mirror can become covered in dust. The noise of the world, worry, habit, our endless preoccupation with outward things. As the dust gathers, the mirror loses its clarity. We may still see many things, yet understand less and less. Perhaps this is precisely the condition the saying describes. We live in a world filled with signs, nature, the beauty of creation, the fragility of life. Yet so much of it passes almost unnoticed, not because it is hidden, but because the gaze of the heart so rarely becomes still. And it is here that the saying speaks a truth belonging to humanity's oldest memories, a truth that reminds us where we came from. The saying now brings us to a truth that sounds so simple and is so difficult to face. They do not see that they came into the world empty and will leave the world empty. We enter this life with no possessions, no title, no wealth, no status. A newborn child brings nothing but its breath and the mystery of its life. This is how every human journey begins. Yet as the years pass, life begins to fill with possessions, with houses, with names, with roles. Layer by layer, life wraps itself around us until we can barely tell what truly belongs to us. Slowly, we begin to believe that all of it is really ours. But the saying reminds us of something we are quick to forget. At the end of life, every material thing remains behind. We leave this world as we entered it. The Persian mystic Rumi expressed this truth in simple words. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Perhaps there is a quiet hint within these words. The things of this world may accumulate around us, but they cannot cross the boundary of death with us. What remains is something else, what has grown within, the goodness of a heart, the truth of a life, our relationship with our Creator. The saying states this truth without drama, almost gently, almost soberly, and yet it changes everything. For when we truly see that we arrived empty and will leave empty, many things begin to lose their power to intoxicate us. And here, the final part of the saying opens before us. A line that offers, for the first time, a possibility. After speaking of intoxication, blindness, and impermanence, the saying leaves its ending unexpectedly open. For now, they are drunk, but when they shake off their wine, they will turn back. For the first time, there is movement. This condition is not permanent. The intoxication of the world is powerful, but it is not inescapable. The saying does not tell us that anyone is forced to awaken. It says only, when the intoxication passes, when a person pauses, when the noise of the world grows quiet, when the heart can feel its thirst again, then something new begins. Rumi described this awakening through an image that speaks beautifully to this saying. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Sometimes the deepest transformation does not come from learning something entirely new. It comes from remembering where we came from, remembering why we are here, remembering the nearness of God. Perhaps this is the moment the saying is pointing towards. Not a dramatic upheaval, but a quiet awakening. A person suddenly sees that so much of what once intoxicated them cannot truly sustain them. And in that moment, something begins that the saying calls a turning back. Not as punishment, but as return. A return to what has always been there, in the midst of the world. The saying ends without judgment. It forces no one to answer. It simply places an image before us. A world filled with people living, working, hoping, struggling, and yet at times moving through life as though intoxicated. Perhaps all of us know this state. The days pass, the years pass, and suddenly a quiet question rises. What am I truly living for? The saying does not answer that question completely, but it reminds us of something essential. We do not belong to this world alone. We come from a depth greater than the world itself. And one day, we return to our source. Perhaps awakening begins at the very moment when a person feels, for the first time in years, that their heart is thirsty.